The next book I have for you is Very Silly. It is Amelia Bedelia. Maybe you have read about her. She is a quite interesting lady who takes words for exactly what they mean. So let's read about her. Here she is going into that house. Oh, Amelia Bedelia, your first day of work. And I can't be here, but I made a list for you. You do just what the list says, said Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers got into the car with Mr. Rogers. They drove away. My, what nice folks. I am going to like working here, said Amelia Bedelia. Well, let's see if she does or doesn't. So Amelia Bedelia goes inside. Such a grand house. These must be rich folks. But I must get to work. Here I stand just looking, and me with a whole list of things to do. Amelia Bedelia stood there a minute longer. I think I'll make a surprise for them. I'll make a lemon meringue pie. I do make good pies. Well, that's a nice idea of hers. So Amelia Bedelia went into the kitchen. She put a little of this and a pinch of that into a bowl, and she mixed and she rolled. Soon her pie was ready to go into the oven. There, said Amelia Bedelia, that's done. So she put the pie in the oven. She seems to be such a good housekeeper and helper. Let's see what happens next. So there's Amelia Bedelia. Now let's see what this list says. And it says, change the towels in the green bathroom. Amelia Bedelia found the green bathroom. Those towels are very nice. Why change them, she thought. Then Amelia Bedelia remembered what Mrs. Rogers had said. She must do just what the list told her. Well, all right, said Amelia Bedelia. So Amelia Bedelia got some scissors. She snipped a little here and a little there, and she changed those towels. There, said Amelia Bedelia, and she looked at her list again, and it said, dust the furniture. Did you ever hear of such a silly thing? At my house, we undust the furniture. But to each his own. Amelia Bedelia took one last look at the bathroom. She saw a big box with the words dusting powder on it. Well, look at that. A special powder to dust with, exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. And so here she is. Look at that. Dusting the furniture. That should be dusty enough. My, how nice it smells. Now she looks at her list again, and the list says, draw the drapes when the sun comes in. She looked up. The sun was coming in, and Amelia Bedelia looked at the list again. Draw the drapes? That's what it says. I'm not much of a hand at drawing, but I will try. And so she tried to draw the drapes. Maybe you can ask your mom and dad what draw the drapes really meant. So Amelia Bedelia marked off about the drapes. Now what? Put the lights out when you finish in the living room. Amelia Bedelia thought about this a minute. She switched off all the lights. There she is, switching off all the lights. And then she carefully unscrewed each light bulb. And then Amelia Bedelia put the lights out. So those things need to be aired out too. I did not know that. Just like pillows and babies. Oh, I do have a lot to learn. Yes, you do, Amelia Bedelia. My pie, exclaimed Amelia Bedelia, and she turned to the kitchen, and just right, she said. She took the pie out of the oven and put it on the table to cool, and then she looked at the list. Measure 2 cups of rice. That's next, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia found 2 cups. She filled them with rice, and then she measured the rice. Amelia Bedelia laughed. These people, they sure want me to do funny things. And then she poured the rice back into the container. I wonder what other silly things these people want to do. Well, so the list says, the meat market is going to deliver a steak and a chicken. Please trim the fat before you put the steak in the icebox. And please dress the chicken. When the meat arrived, Amelia Bedelia opened the bag. She looked at the steak for a long time. Yes, she said, that will do nicely. And Amelia Bedelia got some lace and bits of ribbon, and Amelia Bedelia trimmed the fat before she put the steak into the icebox. Interesting what she thought trim meant. Now I must dress the chicken. I wonder if she wants a he chicken or a she chicken, said Amelia Bedelia. And Amelia Bedelia went right to work, and soon the chicken was finished. Look, she's putting a little pair of pants on the chicken. So she was dressing the chicken. That was a really strange thing for those people to ask. Amelia Bedelia heard the door open. The folks are back, she said, and she rushed out to meet them. Amelia Bedelia, why are the light bulbs outside? Asked Mr. Rogers. And she said, the list just said to put the lights out, said Amelia Bedelia. It didn't say to bring them back in. Oh, I do hope they didn't get aired too long. Amelia Bedelia, the sun will fade the furniture. I asked you to draw the drapes, said Mrs. Rogers. I did. See, said Amelia Bedelia, and she held up the picture. What a confused lady. Then Mrs. Rogers saw the furniture. The furniture, she cried. Did I dust it well enough? Asked Amelia Bedelia. That's such nice dusting powder. Mrs. Rogers went to wash his hands. I say, he called, these are very unusual towels. Mrs. Rogers dashed into the bathroom. Oh, my best towels, she said. Didn't I change them enough? Asked Amelia Bedelia. I think the Rogers are getting quite concerned. Mrs. Rogers went to the kitchen and said, I'll cook the dinner. Where is the rice I wanted you to measure? I put it back in the container. But remember, it measured 4.5 inches, said Amelia Bedelia. Was the meat delivered? Asked Mrs. Rogers. Yes, said Amelia Bedelia. I trimmed the fat just like you said. It does look nice. Mrs. Rogers rushed to the icebox. She opened it. Lace and ribbons. Oh dear, said Mrs. Rogers. The chicken. You dressed the chicken? Asked Mrs. Rogers. Yes, and I found the nicest box to put him in, said Amelia Bedelia. Box! Exclaimed Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers hurried over to the box. She lifted the lid, and there laid the chicken, and he was just as dressed as he could be. Mrs. Rogers was angry. She was very angry. She opened her mouth. Mrs. Rogers meant to tell Amelia Bedelia she was fired, but before she could get the words out, Mr. Rogers put something in her mouth. Do you see that? It was so good. Mrs. Rogers forgot about being angry. Lemon meringue pie. I made it to surprise you, said Amelia Bedelia happily. So right then and there, Mrs. and Mr. Rogers decided that Amelia Bedelia must stay. And so she did. Mrs. Rogers learned to say undust the furniture, unlight the lights, close the drapes, and things like that. Mr. Rogers didn't care if Amelia Bedelia trimmed all of his steaks with lace. All he cared about was having her there to make a lemon meringue pie. And that's the end. What a silly lady.